Hello, Blizzcon. That Crusader is looking pretty awesome, isn't he? I think that's going to be my new favorite class. But of course, it wouldn't be right to work on Reaper of Souls without also visiting the 5 original classes that came with Diablo III. So I want to talk about changes that we're making to the original classes. As we sat down to look at those classes and what changes we wanted to make, the team really believes in focusing on the fantasy. What that means is that every class represents a classical, strong fantasy archetype. And any changes that we make should play into that fantasy and reinforce it. We went over all of the existing skills and runes, as well as every class in Reaper of Souls is going to get a new skill. I'm going to take you through all 5 classes, and we'll highlight what their new skill is going to be. We'll go ahead and get started with my favorite class, the Barbarian. The Barbarian exhibits physical strength. Obviously, unlike the Crusader, who's heavily armored, the Barbarian focuses on his connection to the ancients, his physical strength. We have a theme of earth and might coming through. Earth and might refers to his ability to use boulders or rocks or cause seismic activity. This is exhibited in skills like Seismic Slam and Earthquake. Of course, we feel those skills, Seismic Slam and Earthquake, weren't quite performing as well as they were, so they're getting some huge buffs in Reaper of Souls. And his new skill is called Avalanche. Avalanche will allow him to let out a huge roar and call down a huge pile of rocks and debris to fall from above. Here's a video of what that looks like. Avalanche is currently on a 30-second cooldown in internal builds, but the way we have it set up is the more fury that you spend, it reduces the cooldown on the skill. So if you have a build that spends a lot of fury, you can actually use Avalanche more often. Up next is my favorite class, the Wizard. The Wizard is a powerful range caster. We all know this is a really strong fantasy archetype that's been around for years, decades. A lot of people want to play the Wizard as a glass cannon, clearly an elementalist. You probably know in the live game, there's elements like frost and lightning and fire and arcane. Of course, arcane gets a little more attention, and fire, lightning, and cold could serve to be played up a little bit more. And that's one of our focuses for the Wizard and Reaper of Souls. If you want to play a fire, frost, or lightning elementalist wizard, now you can. We were looking at a lot of existing skills like Spectral Blade and Magic Missile. Magic Missile is getting a rune variant that will actually allow it to do cold damage. And as we were looking at Arcane Orb, it gave us an opportunity to pay homage to one of my favorite D2 skills. In D2, you had Frozen Orb. And here's what that looks like in Diablo III. But as promised, every class is also getting a new skill, and the Wizard's new skill is called Black Hole. Black Hole pulls in all the monsters, CCs them, and deals a huge amount of damage in that targeted area. This really allows you to play up that fantasy of being a ranged glass cannon. You can use crowd control skills and still dish out a lot of damage. And nothing sets up the perfect meteor better than Black Hole. Yeah! Let's talk about my favorite class, the Monk. The Monk is a martial artist. Unlike the Crusader, who's heavily armored, and the Barbarian, who's physically strong, the Monk's core fantasy is to be fast and agile. He also incorporates elemental. He's a elemental bender. He integrates fire and lightning. But of course, what we really want to play up is this sense of mobility. The Monk should be the fastest character on the battlefield. This didn't quite play up as well as we wanted it to on the live game. So in the expansion, we're making changes to skills, like Fist of Thunder, Thunderclap is the most popular rune on live. And one of the reasons is because it incorporates a teleport into its ability. So I'm happy to say that all rune variants of Fists of Thunder will be teleporting you directly to your opponent. We're also looking at skills like Dashing Strike, which was really kitted to fill that fantasy of the fast monk, but for a number of mechanical issues, wasn't used as much as we'd like. So we're reworking its mechanics. One of our goals, although we don't want you to be able to teleport indefinitely, we definitely want it so that if I click on an empty location, I should just go there. And of course, we're going to be looking at Seven-Sided Strike, which is another key skill that makes you feel like you're fast and teleporting all over. And his new skill is called Epiphany. Epiphany, once activated, allows all of your melee attacks to teleport you directly to your target. Let's take a look at that. These are some normal melee attacks. And here I am, I pop Epiphany, and everything I do takes me straight to my opponent. It doesn't matter if you're casting Lashing Tail Kick, Wave of Light, Deadly Reach, no one can get away from you. Every ability you do teleports you directly into your opponent's face. Oh, my favorite class, the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter's fantasies are clear. Ranged weaponry, a deadly assassin, using shadow energy and traps. One of the fantasies of this trap, Demon Hunter wasn't played up as well as we thought. Skills like Spike Trap get used more as ranged damage dealers than a trap. So we're looking at skills like Spike Trap and Sentry. We really want players to be able to play in a way where they say, hey, you know what? I want to set up a little, my home, my nest, and lure enemies into it and have them all just, mercilessly die. But at the end of the day, the Demon Hunter is a ranged class. And her new skill will play into that. The Demon Hunter is getting a skill called Vengeance, which allows every single attack you do to fire off even more ranged weaponry. Let's see what that looks like. I pop Vengeance, and now every attack I do fires additional shots. You got railguns out the side, rockets coming out in all directions. Pew, pew, pew! Pew, pew! Last but not least, my favorite class, the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor, his aesthetic and theme is really, really strong. He's got zombies and the fetishes. We're really happy, actually, with the way the aesthetic of the Witch Doctor plays out on live. But unfortunately, although the aesthetic is strong, his mojo, the mechanics aren't all there. In particular, one of the fantasies of playing a Witch Doctor is to be a dot class or a pet class. And although the pets will tank with you, they don't do enough damage. And although the dots are there, they're not worth using. We're going to be making huge improvements to Haunt and Locust Swarm. One of his new passives, make his dots last for 5 minutes. Totally balanced. And we wanted his new skill to play into many different play styles. So for inspiration, we drew upon Diablo II's Amplified Damage. Amplified Damage is a great utility spell, but it's not super flavorful. It's a great mechanic, but there's not a cool aesthetic to go for it. And we have to pair those up. So I was talking to one of our lead technical artists, Julian Love, and he was saying, he's got all these cool creatures like the bats and the frogs. I mean, when it comes to voodoo creatures, how far can we push this? Could we do piranhas? Why, yes, we can. You can actually see the piranhas stuck to the monster. As a visual indicator, it's not just awesome to look at, it lets you know that's a monster affected by the amplified damage effect. That monster is going to take more damage from all sources. Of course, this begs the question, what lies below the surface of the water? You guys want to see that again? Yeah. Nom 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 nom. So good. So good.